Thanks for joining us for the Long Island Sound Podcast. Each week we explore new music and dive deeper with the artists and their stories behind the music. Please subscribe and rate and review us wherever you stream this podcast. Here's your host, Steve Yusko.
The chance conversation with the famous Eppie Epstein led me to Derrek Adam. What a wonderful, rockin' guy and singer-songwriter. You're going to enjoy this episode so much. He has so much to offer. He's really a rising star. Let's check out his song, The Circle. Hey, everybody, this is Steve Yusko. I am really excited about my guest tonight, Derrek Adam. It kind of culminated after a wacky phone call with a well-known venue operator named Eppie Epstein. And I was talking to Eppie, and I just got to set this up because it's strange how it came together. I was talking to Eppie about the podcast to potentially be a guest, and he was a little bit curmudgeoned about podcasts and what's changing in the music industry. But lo and behold, Kismet kind of came along and he said, hey, if you really want to have somebody as a guest, you got to get Derrek Adam. He's an up-and-coming guy. He's a really great songwriter. And you know what? Coming from Eppie Epstein, that carries weight because Eppie introduced a lot of people to the Long Island sound, not the podcast, but in general in the days. And he still maintains My Father's Place, reborn again at the Metropolitan, which is a great thing. So the one thing in listening to Derrek Adam this morning on my drive to work, because I always do a little bit of a homework, is, man, this guy's a rocker and he's diverse. So with that, I welcome you, Derrek Adam, to the Long Island Sound Podcast. Great to have you here.
Steve, thank you so much for having me, man. It's a total pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, what's interesting, I spoke to your producer, Kyle, and we kind of set this up, I think, within a week or so. And So just give me some history. What I'm always curious about is, did you come from a musical family? When did you pick up an instrument, and when did you realize, hey, this is what I want to, this is what I love to do, and this is what I want to do? When did that happen for you?
Yeah, that is an awesomely loaded question. So I'm going to combat my run off into the sunset with a huge explanation brain, and I'm going to try to give you the short but concise answers. So
excellent.
So it's kind of cool. So my mother has relatives. I have extended family on my mother's side of the family that whether it was grade school, played a horn or some piano skill. My grandfather was a great organ player that I found out much later in life. So wow. she had a bit of, I got some influence from her side of the family in a more, I guess you could say, a more schooled fashion, the literacy, the musical, and then I have my father who taught himself everything he knows. And he just maybe took 2 lessons in his life. He learned everything by ear. Incredible harmonica player, and I can't play that thing to save my life. So that's always the one thing I let him bust my balls about. No, but he got me started. They both got me started with an instrument as early as 3rd grade with the viola, which was an experience. But that didn't last long. But so 3rd grade, I picked up my first instrument.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. Man, I tell you, there's envy that's running through my veins right now. It's like, I wish I had parents like that. Although I love my parents. I mean,
sure, yeah.
They loved music, and I played begrudgingly. I played the piano as a young man, and never woodshedded that instrument. And then I gravitated to the guitar, which was just a lot of fun.
I support that.
So were you a theory guy? Like, did you get the theory at first, or like, how did that kind of roll into your life?
Yeah. So I guess just to like a side note, so basically how my progression of instrument learning per se, how it kind of took off in school. I played the viola for 1 year, and then 4th grade, at least I think they do this in a lot of school districts. In my school district, you couldn't take band until you were in 4th grade. So you couldn't take up a band instrument. Yeah. I don't know. But I took up trumpet. I gravitated towards the trumpet. My father's grandfather was a trumpet player and had a silver. So as a little kid, I'm like, ooh, this is different. He had a silver engraved, like the bell was all engraved. It was this antique of an instrument. And that kind of inspired me to pick up the trumpet, which I played through all of high school. So and I picked up the guitar when I was 10. And that influence came from half from my father and half from listening to like my first version, you'd say, of a rock band. Good Charlotte, Simple Plan, early 2000s. I was like in 5th grade, and I'm like, oh my God, these girls love this music. I got to pick up a guitar. So that's kind of like what happened more or less when I was 10, 11 years old. I got my first guitar.
Wow. Yeah.
So
where'd you grow up? What town?
I grew up in Utica, New York. Well, Whitesboro, which is a small town outside of Utica. So from Long Island, depending on where you are on the island, where I'm at, it's about 4 hours north.
Yep. Actually, a good. My late friend Jim Esposito is from Utica. I remember Matt's Beer was a famous brewery up there, and the big joke was, it's so cloudy up in Utica that if you had a skin condition, that's where you would go to spend the rest of your life. So no offense, but
please, none taken.
That's the Utica joke. So in Utica, when did your family or you migrate down to Long Island?
I have been down here, I want to say, I mean, we're approaching April. Yeah, it will be 7 years on April 2nd that I've been down here. And I'm the only one of my family down here.
Gotcha. Yep.
That's
why I don't detect a Long Island accent, which is probably to your advantage. So, so at that point, now we heard coming into the program, we heard your song, The Circle. And I'm interested in that point. How does this happen with an artist and musician where they learn their craft, trumpet, you're multi-talented in with different instruments. When did it hit you to say, I want to write music, or I can write music, or, when did that happen?
That's a great question. Wow. That's an incredible question, because you kind of forget yourself. I think, I think, well, I don't even think I answered your previous question. So I would say I am pretty significantly learned in music theory. Okay. I started taking music theory as soon as I could in high school. And that's when I actually kind of fell into taking choir, which I didn't want to do that. I never wanted to sing. I was petrified to say boo on a microphone, let alone actually even play a guitar solo for anybody. So I was a pretty shy kid. But I got addicted to, I don't want to say addicted to theory, but just almost like a theory within a theory, where it's like just the unders, like the demystification, just you get so deep into a song where, like, if I teach as well. So I have young students that I'm like, did you hear that right there? And like, what do you mean? Because you stop listening to a song as one whole thing, and then you start listening to it as like 5 to 10 different sounds at once happening, because your ears just get so, it's like they're like a muscle. And I took that with me to college. I went to Crane Music School up in Potsdam, where I studied music business, and I studied classical and jazz guitar up there. So that theoretical knowledge I had, and the literacy that I got from playing trumpet, really gave me an edge. Not much of one, but a little bit of an edge, because a lot of guitarists going into the collegiate level, they couldn't read music. Right. What did we do? We learned tabs, we listened by ear. But it was through that and starting to get into bands and playing with people, and I guess just kind of searching for my own style, that after I learned enough, I got addicted to just the idea of putting a smile on someone's face when they hear something that I created. I've always been a creative person. I was an artist at a very young age, and unfortunately I didn't carry that into my adulthood, but I think the creativity has always been there. And there's just a feeling I get, one, when you get that section just right, how you want it, and then you take all those sections and you actually get a chance to perform a song, and someone's like, hey, that was amazing. That's, whether it's one person or 1,000 people, to me, there's no better feeling. So,
right. I mean, you hit a couple of points. One, the need to be creative, which is really kind of a driving force, and then the intrigue with the theory aspect of it. I got to ask you this, and I have a theory. Are you really good at math?
So I was, up until a certain level in high school, where I had to start doing the homework and studying for the tests. Once it became, I think, like that pre-calculus, really getting complex. I rode the, barely do the homework, not studying, getting decent test scores up until that level. And then I had no desire. It was rough to get me to do homework. Fortunately, I was able to kind of just ride on a good memory and things of that nature. Yeah. So I guess I'm okay at math.
That's of people that I've met, particularly very intricate guitarists, and I'm thinking about guys that I knew from high school. They were like AP guys. They were in the smart class. But by the way, when I went to school, there were 3 levels. I went to Catholic school, the dumb class, the middle class, and the ones who were destined for college. I was in the middle, which scarred me for life. But that's life.
Oh no, it certainly is.
No, it's okay. So it really developed for you. Now, did it come? Right. This is a question that everybody asks, I think.
Yeah.
Lyrics or melody first for you?
That's another great question. So
you know what? I got a shitload of great questions, and I'm not even hitting the really great ones. So
I'm telling you, man, I'm really loving it. So I'm all ears. Lyrics or melody is a great question, and I think the most honest answer I could give, and I think the most honest answer a lot of artists could give, is that it really just depends on the moment. You know, I can think of songs right off the bat that maybe I started with a verse, like just punching out a few lines. You know, on my phone, in my notes, I do a lot of stuff in my notes, or if I think of words that go well together, I might, you know, just to save it as much as possible. You know, I think I will say with 2, maybe even 3. Actually, no. I guess if you had a pie graph, maybe I write riffs first. You know.
Okay.
But I guess I kind of went off a little bit. But you're talking melody specifically.
Well, I'm not that specific. I'm just whether it's words or music that come really.
Well, I think that's ever changing with me because, you know, I love when I get a chance to like watch interviews of my favorite musicians, and then some that aren't my favorite and I remember one thing I saw Paul McCartney, you know, no, sorry, it wasn't Paul McCartney. I was close. George Harrison. And someone was asking him about how he writes his songs. And I'm going to follow this up with a really important point regarding theory. I'll come back to that. But he was just like, yeah, he's like, I just kind of play what I feel, what I hear. And I start humming a melody, you know, and then, you know, he just, if the melody fits, then he kind of layers the words on top. I might actually be mixing him and Paul up because I think both of them, you know, there was a song that I think Paul was just like throwing, you know, just nonsense lyrics.
Nonsense words, right. Just to get through it.
In. Yeah,
yep, we were talking about that the other day.
That's a really good strategy too when you're getting stuck. You know, I get stuck all the time. But right. So I really think it just depends. You could be struck with one melody while you're driving in the car. You could be grinding on your instrument at home and you're like, I love this riff. What can I sing over it? So
hey, listen, I gotta tell our audience something. So I listened to your music on the way into work this morning. A few times. And I'm very honest with you. I was blown away by the structure of the songs and particularly the guitar playing. And I'm thinking to myself, because sometimes I go negative, I'm like, it can't be him, you know, because he really playing the guitar, but you've laid down, the bass line, the guitar. I mean, your guitar playing is really something. And anybody who really likes good rock music or leans, and I don't like to tie anybody into a particular genre. The first guy that came to my mind in listening to your guitar playing was Eddie Van Halen, and Eddie Van Halen-esque approach on a couple of things. But you know what? It created a curiosity in me going, I want to hear a hell of a lot more songs from this guy because
that's cool.
I want to know what Derrek's sound is. You know, I spoke to another guy and we're talking about my friend Mike Nugent, and he was very complimentary about Mike. And he said, you know what? Mike's the kind of guitar player that you can hear his music and know it's Mike playing. Now, that brings me to a question. 1, how did you develop your sound? And 2, see, the questions get really tough now. How did you develop your sound? And how did you develop your voice? And what I mean, not your vocal cords, but the Derrek sound, I guess, in how you sing.
Like tonality, kind of. Yeah.
Because I, to be honest with you, and maybe other people have this, I struggle. I'm freaking 61 years old, and I still struggle to grab that first note when I'm playing a song. You know, I'm learning a song. It's like, oh, son of a bitch, you know, and then you go back over it, and then you develop those neural pathways to go, oh yeah, that's where that note is. I have non-perfect pitch. Okay. So I struggle with it. So anyway.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So first question was developing my guitar sound in terms of tone specifically, or just overall?
You tell me.
Okay, cool. So this is interesting because I've always been very impressed with the tone geek guitar idols of mine, because as much as I'd like to say I have a fairly acute ear, that and the sound engineering, the EQs, the oh, cut the mids, scoop the mids, all the like that's I feel very much I'm still in the neophyte stage of that, in terms of my tone. I guess I come from a place where just happenstance, I've always tried to get the most out of what was in front of me, which was never very much. So, I think about, my progression as a player. I really was never super pedal heavy. I just really tried to, and I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just like, and then I just was like, I like this. I'm like, and I kind of, I guess, trusted my ear, which I honestly wish I would do more often when it comes to the songwriting process. Cause that I would like, pull my hair out. Cause I'm like, oh, this just isn't the part, but
right.
Tonally, I'm just like, all right, this sounds badass, and I think that comes with a subconscious modeling after who really tickles my fancy as a player in terms of tone, because I like to say all my favorite players have just the juiciest tone ever, whether they're playing clean or they have a ripping guitar solo. I am a big Overdrive fan. This is where I'm gonna reach my ceiling as far as how much I know in terms of these things, but I'm not as big on distortion as I am Overdrive when it comes to my solo playing. I just like that it has a more, it's crisp. I just like clarity in my notes, and I really try to emulate that in any sort of technical whatever I'm doing. In addition to me just being able to execute it properly, I want the tone to reflect that.
Right. Let me interrupt you for a minute, because it's funny. It's like I learned guitar late, right? And there's a lot of pedals out there, right?
Oh, so many.
And there's this misnomer of, instead of, and I'm self-analyzing here because that's what I do. It's not, by the way, this is not about you, Derrek. It's totally about Steve Yusko.
Okay, perfect.
I use you as a vehicle to self-analyze.
Perfect.
But you get to that point where, you go into, Sam Ash or Guitar Center or whatever, or you're looking at Sweetwater and going, yeah, that pedal will make me sound really good. and right, big misnomer. But you've done the opposite. If you have a sparse pedal field, I don't know what the hell you call it, board, and you're not dicking around with that stuff, and you're woodshedding what you're doing naturally, you can put anything on top of that afterwards.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You kind of nailed it. One thing, I don't know when this started, but one thing I started doing a lot, and I think I've been doing this for several years now, is practicing everything clean or unplugged. Any technical thing I do, and technical meaning, I know that word can be kind of misconstrued. I don't mean dazzling a million notes, just my overall technique. Like, how good is that vibrato? How good is that one bend? It doesn't have to be, this flurry of, 30-second notes, blah, blah, blah. But any technical work that I do, I try to really, how good can I get it to sound before I even plug the thing in? Or what I'll do a lot is, and I don't do recently, I haven't done it a lot, but I used to do this very much at the last place I lived at. For whatever reason, it was right in front of me. I play a lot of my acoustic, and I tried to play as much on that acoustic as I did on my electric, and that I felt like was very rewarding, because that's a pedalless thing. For in most cases, an acoustic guitar is, that's the sound. You're not really going to try to distort that too much. But I think just stripping it down, because you can always add, like you said, you can always throw things on top. But if at your core, if you're really, really getting the message across, it's, to me, just icing on cake, cherry on top, any sort of effects you add.
Right. And then, is when you've done the song like that, and then you fully develop it to whatever nuance and instruments you put in it, you still have that position where you can go out by yourself and still deliver the song on acoustic, and
very true,
and feel true to it without, I would think, doing the reverse. Or, how do I do the unplugged after I've done it just like that? This is in my mind. Hey, let's do this, Derrek. Let's take a quick break, because I have to think up harder questions, because you're answering them too well.
It's too kind.
And when we come back from the break, I want to talk about the development of the circle. I don't want to know what it means. I'd rather leave that to the audience.
I dig
but
that.
I'm interested in that, how that developed. Hey, everybody, we're going to be back with Derrek Adams. There's so much. I just got a good feeling. There's a lot to learn from Derrek. So, Derrek, I'm getting a free lesson out of you. whether you like it or not.
It's all
Stick
good,
with us,
man.
everybody. We'll be right back.
At the Long Island Sound, we're much more than a podcast. We're building a community. Please go to gigdestiny.com, check out all our social media links, subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast. Please comment, call the listener line, tell us what you think, what questions we should ask, who we should have on the show. And most of all, we thank you for your generous support. And remember, support the artists who are guests on the show. Now back to the podcast.
Hey, everybody. We're back. Well, we're with this guy, Derrek. I don't know. He seems pretty bright. He's a phenomenal guitar player. I'm setting low expectations, Derrek, so they get
Oh,
wild.
man, you're being way too kind.
You know what's funny? I was talking to one of my guests. I said, this is like speed dating because we haven't really met in person, and we got to get a feel of, by the way, I'm enjoying our conversation together already.
Oh,
It's only
100%.
been, a short period of time. So it's not painful. Not that I have, the only painful, well, I won't even go into that. Before we went to the break, tell me how the first song that our audience heard, The Circle, how did that come about to you? When did you write it? That sort of thing. I'm curious about it.
Yeah, that, so this was something, this is kind of cool. It was very vivid, like the moment I started writing this song. It's very clear, and not a lot of things, I have a great memory, but like to close my eyes and I can see. So shortly after I moved down here, I was working at I guess you could call it like an after school music and art school.
Okay.
So like an after hours kind of thing for private lessons. I was like one of their guitar and band instructors for a short time.
Okay.
And I was doing some substitute work at a different one of their locations on the South Shore. And I had a break in between students, and I just had my acoustic with me, and I was just kind of vamping on some just random shit, for lack of better words. And I just kind of stumbled on one riff that I actually really like. It wasn't as convincing in the moment as I guess it is now. I'm just kind of like, really? This is all you got? And I kept vamping on it. And then I just, the lyrics were very reflective of my the time of my life, in like that moment. And it was a very, like, I was just kind of having a conversation in the mirror. And that's kind of like at least what the first chunk of lyrics, like that day, I wrote a good chunk of that song. And it was just me on a stool with my acoustic guitar. And I just was vamping on this riff, and I just kind of fell into a groove. And man, I wish it was that easy every time when it gets to writing a song. But yeah, but that's what happened. That's what happened with it. And then I took those ideas, I put them into my computer, and then I was like, okay, how do I want this to sound?
Right.
Yeah. But that's definitely the inception of the song.
So one of the things I'm enamored about people who can write music is, one, exposing yourself, being very transparent about emotions and things you may have gone through. Many people write in the first person. The extreme for me is Taylor Swift. That's why we never dated, because I was really fearful of the breakup.
Oh man, he'd be immortalized.
How creepy is that? Me and Taylor Swift. All right, it's a fantasy, but okay. She's too tall. I'm too tall. But in going into writing, is there something in your mind early in developing the muse? Well, let's talk about lyrics that you may decide, hey, this is what I felt and I need to express it, or this is a character and a storyline I want to develop. Where does it run for you?
That's really cool. I know I'm sounding like a broken record. These are all really great questions. So
Broken
I'm totally
record, good pun.
them.
Excellent. I like it. Run with it.
I'm really enjoying these. So, I guess right now I'm just kind of scrolling through my Rolodex of the songs I have written. I think it's a combination of my own personal experiences. So I guess more of that first person kind of vibe, or it's me, I guess, or somewhere it's like I'm talking to you, about a situation. It could be a societal thing, like what's going on around us. So I guess the narrative kind of changes. The Circle is 100% me just kind of venting, that's definitely, that's certainly what that song is about. But yeah, it changes. And I like that question because I think about that a lot. I want to make sure I guess I'm the kind of individual where I don't like to do the same thing too much.
Right.
I have a fear of that, like, just not monotony, but just predictability. And sometimes it's to a fault, but yeah, I always think, okay, what's the perspective, and then I think to myself, all right, and then I get crazy and I'm like, all right, how many songs have you written? Just I, and I'm like, change it up, and then that might even spark a different idea entirely.
Right. I look at that when I write an email. When I start a sentence with I, it's like, there I go again. But I'm my favorite subject, so I got that going for me. But to be honest with you, I'm looking at your song titles. The Road I Know kind of spurred that question on.
Yeah. For
me, and that's the next song I want to expose to the audience. The Road I Know. So tell us a little bit about that, and then let's just jump right into that song and let because. This music's, I heard Springsteen had a great line, this music is like sex, it's better demonstrated than talked about, So.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Cheers to that. So this is cool too, because The Road I Know is an entirely different song than The Circle. The Circle is this 4 on the floor, really rocking song. The energy is pretty high from start to finish. It's got some, very intricate little just blips of this kind of progressive influence I had from some, but I tried to keep a mainstream, and I guess that's something that I could kind of go into another time a little bit later, but that'd be something fun to talk about. But The Road I Know is also pretty vivid, the inception of that song. So this was after Kyle and I met, and
explain who Kyle is for those who don't know.
Right. Sorry. Kyle's my manager. He is an incredible partner, and he's my chief consult and everything. He's
an accomplished artist himself, from what I understand.
Yeah. He's got a history with Luke Bryan, and absolutely. He's definitely a Renaissance man full of many skills, of which I try to take advantage of as much as possible. So
nice.
But yeah, so this was shortly after we met. And we were just kind of collaborating on some moves to make, and some ideas of, hey, like let's just throw everything at the wall and see if something sticks. So let's kind of diversify like what I was writing a little bit. So it kind of gave me a challenge to, I don't want to say think outside the box entirely, because this song is definitely a part of like that. The Road I Know is a genre which I do very much enjoy listening to, that very much more low-key singer-songwriter, acoustic, stripped down. I feel like any guy that's a rocker, you can't just listen to that all day. Everybody's got their moments where you totally flip the switch. Right. Yeah. So it was after 2 or 3 tequilas, and it was late, and I just played, just a couple chords on my acoustic, threw it on my in my computer, and I came up, I think, with the first verse, and that was it. And I just sent it over to him, and I'm like, hey, I'm just kind of messing around. And he's like, he was just like, this is insane. Where did this come from? He's like, this is awesome. So
right.
So that was obviously a major confidence boost in me to get it finished. And I'm really happy with that song. That song is probably one of my most personal songs I've ever written. And yeah, it just always, as it says in the title, it really just hits home every time I sing it.
So let's you've baited the audience. They're intrigued, and now they want to hear it.
Great.
So everybody, let's listen to The Road I Know, and we've got so much more to cover. We'll be back with Derrek Adam. Check out the song.
I never saw it coming, hit me right in the heels, and now everything is changing. Tell me how I should feel. Mama said she loved me, no matter where I go. And my dad, he said, son, sometimes in life we take the hardest road. And that's where I'll go. Yeah, that's where I'll go. I'll climb every stone, I'll do it alone. As long as I know I will make it back home. You were always a friend to me, saw the light that I could I know is that I believe time will tell what my fate will be. Feel the heat of the sun, and I'm not the only one. Sleepless nights, sunken eyes, and my knuckles are bruised and wide. Take your time, maybe your words, but they're not mine. And that's where I'll go. Yeah, that's where I'll go. I'll climb every stone, I'll do it alone, as long as I know I'll make it back home. Yeah, that's where I'll go. I will do it alone, climb every stone, as long as I know. Sleepless nights, sunken eyes, and my knuckles are bruised and wide. Take your time, maybe your words, but they're not mine. And that's where I'll go. Yeah, that's where I'll go. I'll climb every stone, I'll do it alone, as long as I know I'll make it back home. Yeah, that's where I'll go. I will do it alone, climb every stone. I'm coming home. I'm coming home. Down the road that I know.
Hey everyone, we are back. Great song. It really kind of shows the depth of what you do, and really, and I said this before, but it really piques my curiosity to say what else can this guy do? And that, I guess that's the things that make me want to learn more, hear an artist more, see them live, and say, wow, this was kind of cool. And before we jump into a few things here, you did touch on something which I also find interesting as well, is you don't want to be predictable, particularly when you're playing songs. And I can't imagine artists who have such a huge repertoire of like, yeah, I've got to play that for the 10,000th time and still look like I'm enjoying doing it.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of skill, I would think. But I find that with questions too. Like I found early on, here I go talking myself, my favorite subject, is you find yourself getting in a rut. It's almost like having the same playlist, It's like, I start with this, I ask that question. It's too freaking predictable. If I was listening to myself, I wouldn't listen anymore, type of thing.
I got you.
But let's talk about this.
Sure.
Let's talk about, so you're an artist out there, you're teaching. Thank God. I'm telling you, all the artists most of my guests are teachers as well. And you're paying it forward, and you're encouraging students, and it's just a wonderful gift to share, so to speak. But what I found interesting about, and I spoke to your producer, Kyle, about, and if you don't mind, I'm going to relay the story we spoke about. Kyle and his wife were listening to you in some bar, I guess, and you were playing, and Kyle's wife had to say, hey, you listening to this? Because this guy's good. And boom, there was a connection between the two of you. Kyle is a very, as you said earlier, very good artist in his own right. And now you've got a cheerleader and a champion by your side. What's that like? What's that like?
Yeah, it's no, I remember that day too. I was playing this little brunch gig by myself at a place that I played quite frequently, and it was a very slow afternoon. And
do you want to mention it? You want to plug it?
They're actually closed now.
All right, then we won't plug it. All right. So you did a good job. Nice job.
Yeah, I did a nice job putting them out of business.
Put them out of business.
Yeah.
You charged them too much.
Yeah. It was a fantastic place. That was really a home, another home for me in terms of performing. It was great. I was their weekly resident.
Nice.
And so yeah, I was playing this brunch and there was nobody there. And Kyle and his wife and son, I think all three of them were there. And yeah, and all I remember is that right after I finished the song, right when they were about to leave, he just walked over to me. He threw me a tip and he goes, "Hey, just want you to know that someone's listening." And that really resonated. That was a really
Nice.
Cool. Like I actually, you walk out the door like, oh, thank God, because I've played. I don't want to say big, like, tens of thousands of people big, but I've played relatively big shows. I've played very, very small shows. I get all kinds, but all it takes is one person. I tell my colleagues this, I tell my friends and family, all it takes is if you're having a shitty night, just at least if one person is just like, "Hey man, that was awesome." Boy, does that just like put a pep in your step,
Right. Right.
But yeah, so shortly after that, his wife reached out to me on Instagram and was like, "Hey, just out of the blue, like, we saw you. You were incredible at such and such. And, do you have any Are you under management? Are you under your contract? Are you working with anybody? My husband has connections. He's got a history in the industry. And that's kind of where we got connected. Yeah.
Oh my God. So it's like having an angel drop into your lap, right? And it's interesting because I've heard in speaking to a lot of guests, they all have horror stories about promoters and producers, who have screwed them over, to be honest with you.
Sure. Yeah.
But to have someone that's promoting you, producing you, helping you along, who's an artist as well, carries a lot of weight in my book, as far as they walk the walk and they talk the talk,
Yeah.
So, and
absolutely.
as I blow smoke up Kyle's skirt, if he's listening. So, so now you're an artist. You've played a lot of different venues. And I've never asked this question, but how would you characterize the genres that you live in? Does that make sense?
The genres that I live in.
Yeah. In other words, would you categorize yourself at all as like, oh, I'm a rocker, I'm a this or that, or no?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was being kind of poetic. I was being poetic.
I love it. I know, and I totally
a little bit.
I know.
I'm creative.
Yeah.
I love it. Different.
I am certainly a rocker at heart. There's just so much more to me than that. I did grow up, especially once the guitar I picked that up. Even before that, because my dad was in bands. Classic rock and blues was like a major part of my household soundtrack, if you will.
Okay.
Major, and like that'll never go away. There's probably going to come a time in my life where I put out a blues album and I won't even think about it. You know what I mean? Because it's just like a core memory, like way back here kind of thing, where it's like you can't rip that out. It's like, and for no bad reason, because it was all so influential to me. And so I have that influence. I've gone through so many phases of guitardom, with my instrument. Like, I had a huge Leonard Skinner phase. I had a huge Southern rock phase. I had to learn Freebird. I had to record it at my guitar teacher's studio when I was 16, or maybe it's around 16, or maybe a little bit younger, whatever. But it probably sounded like a 16-year-old was playing it. So, but I had the Southern rock phase, and I kept getting. It was kind of like a stair step into getting into more and more, in my eyes, developed, accomplished, seasoned players, because I was fascinated by the musicianship.
Sure.
And that's not to overshadow the fact that I still think that David Gilmour or B.B. King are two of the greatest and most influential players on this planet. But just because they can't play stuff that Van Halen or Eric Johnson or Steve Vai can play, they're on different feet. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's too much of a comparison in terms of technicality. Oh, he's so fast. Oh, but he's got no feel. It's like, oh man, that's such a juicy, but he can't play. It's like, I wish that would just go. It'll never go away. But I try so hard to it's just all one level playing field, and it's what they wanted to do, So
having said that, who are your musical heroes?
So, that beautifully weaves into me answering your previous question. So I had the Southern rock phase.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Crazy Train. I was weird shift here, but Crazy Train was the first song I ever performed live. It was for my 6th grade talent show.
Oh, come on, really?
Yeah. Now it sounded like a 6th grader played it, but okay. I remember one of my friends had been playing guitar for a little bit longer than me, and so I was like, I gotta get going here. I gotta get as good as this kid. And he introduced me to that song, and I was blown away. I'm like, who the hell is Randy Rhoads? I'm like, this dude is the greatest thing I've ever heard. So I want to say Randy Rhoads was the first, in my eyes, virtuoso level player that got me on this string of just over the years, over the decades. I can't believe I can say that now. It's like, that's kind of cool and weird at the same time. But of all of these fantastic players that I have just tried sucking dry in terms of learning as much as possible from them. So it was Randy Rhoads. I had a huge Eric Johnson kick. I was blown away when I heard him for the first time, and I lost my only recording I did of Cliffs of Dover. It's a shame. I wish I had that somewhere, but that's how obsessed I was obsessed with him. I was obsessed with Paul Gilbert. Paul Gilbert's another huge influence on me. Andy Timmons, who's toured with Eric Johnson. He's not as well known as the other guys, but I put him easily on the same level as all those guys. If you or anybody who's listening has never listened to Andy Timmons and you're a guitar aficionado or you just love guitar, he'll blow you away. John Petrucci of Dream Theater is a huge influence on me. My first EP I recorded at DTHQ with their audio and live sound engineer, Jimmy T. Meslin. Yeah. So the first track folks heard, The Circle, that was there. So that was like the greatest feeling in the world. To just the level of inspiration was just through the roof, getting a chance to do that.
Let me ask you this. So I want to bring the trumpet back into the discussion. Have you or do you plan on bringing horns into your music anytime?
So,
or is it something that just is not a fit? I guess maybe it's not a fair question.
Well, no, I think it's just as appropriate as what I've heard in music I like. Like, I feel like I'm always going back to your previous question. I don't want to hold up your questions, but
that's right. You're making me dizzy. That's okay.
But I'm also not only a rocker, but I like hard rock, I like metal, and I have been very influenced by players of that genre as well. So to touch upon your horn comment, I'm a big Avenged Sevenfold fan. I have probably spent more time learning their songs than most bands I've listened to, and they in several tracks have implemented the use of horns. I think it's a wonderful accent to music. I think live it's fucking killer because everybody loves a live horn section with the band. Sure. So I would never cut that out as a possibility. I think it just, if the time comes and I'm like, oh, this song would sound great with this, or it's you dice roll and you say, hey, what about some horns here? I'm open to everything always.
If I was a genie and I could give you a wish and I asked you, hey, who do you want to play with? You pick it, they'll play with you. And where would you want to play with them?
Oh, man.
What type of venue? Hey, see, you challenged me, by the way. By the way, your big mistake was telling me how great my questions were. And I know that was a knee-jerk thing, so you can't bullshit me. Okay. And you know what that did to me? That just made me go, all right, let's stump the Derrek.
I love it.
What would it be, Derrek? See, I'm in my bullshitting right now. This is a technique, brother. It's giving you time to think about your answer. And that's why I'm a kind host, okay? So I'm giving you a wish. Who would it be and where would it be? So, and it can't be Kyle. All right?
He's the man. But yeah, so that's a very easy question to answer. And it's actually one of my influences I did not mention yet. He has been, this gentleman I'm about to mention has been a massive influence on me for, if I think about like how I told you, like over the course of the last 2 decades, it's been like, I have like phases. I have this phase, of this phase, of this phase. The more recent part of my lifespan career in music, Richie Cannata has blown me away time and time again. This guy has, it's frustrating actually. It would be terrifying to play with him because he's so good. He's such an incredible guitar player, and he is such an incredible singer. He's a songwriter. He puts out more songs than I can even count. He's just he's a total package. And I just took my wife last weekend. A little belated Valentine's Day thing for us because we never go out actually on Valentine's Day. We always try to. Come on.
You get the bums rush, right?
Yeah. So we got a chance to see Richie Cannata. He's in a power trio called the Winery Dogs.
Okay.
And that's Richie Cannata on guitar and vocals, Mike Portnoy of Dream Theater, who I love, Mike, on drums, and Billy Sheehan on bass, who Richie's played with in years past. And to date, that's the best show I've ever seen live.
Really?
I walked out of there. It was at Patchogue Theater. I have never walked out of a concert venue more inspired than I did that night. I was blown, and it was my first time getting a chance to finally see him live. So I would absolutely say him. Venue, whichever venue would not make me explode like a hitting the head off a dandelion from sheer nerves. Something I can handle. No, but anything. To get a chance to even talk with him and just pick his brain and it would, that would make everything for me. I would be so humbled and just grateful to chat with him, let alone even pick up a guitar next to him.
That leads me to another question. You've played bigger arenas, right?
Relatively, yeah.
Relatively. A couple hundred people at least?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you more nervous because there's more people?
I tell you what, and maybe this makes you sound like a hypocrite, but I thrive off of it.
Okay.
I think there's going to be always that initial first few seconds of, I call it dumb fingers, or you get a little too tense, but I truly thrive off of it. And I think as somebody who loves to write music that has a certain kind of energy to it, whatever they're giving me, they're going to get back tenfold in terms of a performance. Yeah.
You know what, as you bring up a good point, I think, if you get in that point of your career, and I do public speaking and I kind of miss it, I want to do more of it, is that if you don't get that tickle or that nervousness, you're probably not focused, and you're probably you're potentially phoning it in to a point. And that's probably a good red flag to say, maybe I better reanalyze on what I'm doing.
Sure.
Before we get lost in these great conversations, and by the way, and I don't say this to every guest, I want to have you back because I think there's more for us to discover with you and to learn from you, to be honest with you.
I'm humbled. Thank you.
No, it's okay. Don't be too humble. Come on, you got to promote yourself. You're the
I would absolutely love to.
Yeah. I'm the bomb. Say that. I'm the bomb.
I can't do that. Not without laughing. Are you kidding me? No way.
Well, I'm going to tell the audience, listen to his music and you're going to be turned around. And any guitar or music aficionado out there who thinks they've heard somebody really good, when you hear Derrek's guitar playing, it'll blow you away.
No, I appreciate
Tell
that.
me about the song Home, and then we'll jump in and let the audience listen to it.
Cool. So Home is track 3 off of my first EP called Silver Lining. It's the closest thing to a more ballad-esque song of the 4. The 4th one, which I would love to promote on this as well for everybody to listen to. The 4th one is not going to be it's not in this podcast. Maybe we'll save that for the next one.
Okay. Teaser. But, I like
it. But Home is that's a song, and I'm trying to I like to reference these questions you've asked me prior. So lyrics or melody. So I was with my bass player Joe. He's a very dear friend of mine. Incredible person, incredible player.
Does he have a last name?
Yes. Inserano, Joe Inserano.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Best bud. And we were just kind of bullshitting. I think it was a night that it was just the two of us. I think that our drummer at the time, who still a very dear friend, no bad blood there, incredible musician, but our drummer at the time couldn't make it, and we're like, fuck it, like let's get together, let's throw some ideas around, maybe we won't work on present material. And a couple of drinks here and there, what have you. And I just remember vamping on a series of 3 little sections chordally, just harmonically. Like, I'm like, hey man, just kind of lay down these roots for me. I'm going to play some chords. And I just was just humming tunes, no lyrics, just humming tunes. And instantly I recorded it and I threw it on my phone and I had everything. And I came back to him a while after and I'm like, I think I have a song. And so I had this harmonic and melodic foundation. And then are we telling the audience what the songs are about, or what do you think? Or should we just leave it to them?
You're the artist. I don't like to.
Yeah.
So, feel free to discuss what you want to.
Yeah. I'll give a very brief, but it's basically, to put it in a nutshell, it's just one of a few songs I've written that's kind of a general, just, I guess what the hell is going on in the world kind of thing, the whole puppet on a string thing. Yeah, that's the shit show, the puppet on a string, the, what's real, what's not. Like, we're in such a world of
disinformation.
But the irony is like, but what's the real info? Yeah, so that's just to kind of touch upon it. So it's just kind of like a what the fuck song, like what's going on. Right. So that's kind of, this is our home. This is like, we gotta just, I think anybody should, in any sense, you always got to stand up for yourself. And it kind of has a more individual relationship to it too, where it's like, stand up for yourself always, and so that kind of inner voice. And big on the inner voice.
Cool. All right. So let's listen to Home. And then we'll be right back after the song. Check it out, everybody.
Trying to be the last in line. And all I want is some peace of mind. This I know. It's our home.
Hey, everybody, we're back with Derrek Adam, and I know I'm going to get calls on the listener line. Now, let me just mention this. We do have a listener line, and if you want to comment on anybody, but if you want to send Derrek Adam a message, call 631-800-3579. That's our listener line. You can leave a recorded message. I share it with the artists. People have been great in giving feedback and giving their impressions of what, you know, a particular song meant to them. Because I'm telling you, as Derrek said, it means a lot to an artist to say, hey, this hit home with me, and this is part of my soundtrack now. So call the listener line. But I do want to get all our songs in that you brought to the table today. And tell me about the fourth song, Used, and then we'll jump right into it and let the audience hear it. And then we got a special segment at the end here. We're going to go a little deep with the audience and with Derrek. So, you know, stick to the end of the podcast. I think you'll like it. Anyway, you take it away, Derrek.
Oh, sure, man. Yeah. So Used, I think. So this fourth track that I was teasing about our hopefully projected next session, you know, with some hopefully new material by then. But Used and these other three tracks, they all bring something different to the table, and that's one thing I was proud of with this EP, was that every song is different. Every song is different enough to be not stand on its own, for lack of better words, but at the same time, I wanted these songs I wanted always to seem cohesive enough to where you're like, that's his song, you know? Right. But like I told you before, this predictability, I always love to just, my mind kind of goes, you know? And this song, I think I really focused more on, well, I guess I can preface it with what I wrote it about. So this song is loosely written about an ex of mine. And I was like, yeah, let's make this like a kind of attitude filled, not breakup song. It's not a breakup song. It's just kind of like, you know, it's just almost kind of like, a
lament.
Yeah, like, oh, how you doing over there now? You know, after all this time has passed, kind of thing. You know, like you weren't you were not a great person, and let's talk about it, kind of thing. So I'm being like half serious, but so it was loosely written about some things in my past, and I had fun with it. I had total fun with it, and
great.
Yeah, and it's got this very like kind of shuffly kind of like feel to it. You know, that intro riff's like. You can kind of really feel the little bit of swing to it, and I had a lot of fun with that. I think that this song, I was more kind of like accepting of, like, you know, the less chords the better. I want this to be some kind of swanky riffing song, a little bit more straightforward rock-y kind of tune. But then go figure, I pull a Derrek, and the second half of the song is like a totally different song. So after, I guess you'd call it the last pre-chorus, there's this just double time, 200 beat per minute, like just large outro that's full of lyrics. Really one of my favorite vocal moments I had in the studio recording this. Great guitar moments. I'm not tooting a horn. It just felt great in the moment. You know, everything. Yeah, everything it's a very like not bipolar per se, but yeah, it's one song and then it's another song. And
you can almost equate it to, now that you reference what it's about, the time with the person and the time after the person, right? You know, it's kind of pieces.
Actually, I think subconsciously I did that lyrically. So maybe whoever listens to it, I have to even think about it in my head now. That maybe that's what happened. Yeah. Well,
welcome to the Long Island Sound couch, because you're gonna discover things here that the artists are gonna go, hey, yeah.
Yeah, you just made me have my own giant light bulb. I'm like, oh shit, Steve is a genius.
I am good. And I'm not afraid to say it, because I think humility is overrated. I'm just saying. Hey, everybody, let's check out Used, and then hang on for that really special segment, which puts a lot of pressure on the two of us. Check out Used, and we'll be right back after the song.
Trying to convince me with another pretty face. 'Cause baby, you don't think you have to try. It's time you're leaving. Something's crashing down, burning to the ground, and no one came around to save you. Walking through your life like it ain't nothing but a joke, like everything is on a silver plate. Well, darling, it don't work that way, but you won't let it go, and I ain't got the patience for your games. Everybody sees it. Keep it up and building up alone. Something's crashing down, burning to the ground, and no one came around to save you. I'd like to think that you would change and toss aside your evil ways, but that would be insane. And so it seems there ain't nothing more to say. It's time that you are on your way. Can't keep running away from the truth. Everybody's got something to lose, and I'm not sticking around for a view of you begging for me. You can't keep running. You can't keep running. You can't keep running away. You can't keep running. You can't keep running away. You can't keep running. You can't keep running. You can't keep running away. You can't keep running. You can't keep running away.
Hey, everybody, it's Steve Yuska, and I always say, hey, everybody, like, hey, everyone, like, there's 10,000 people out. Anyway, hello there, person listening to the podcast, because I'm in your head now, or we're in your head. I was doing my little bit of homework on Derrek, and I pulled up a quote from Facebook, and it really kind of struck me, so I want to read it to you. And this is from Derrek. If you never face your fears, then you will always be running away from something. Don't dwell on then. Embrace now. Push yourself to tears and over your limits. And when the day is done, you'll be one step above yesterday. It's just beautiful. And I read this to Derrek during the break, and he had like this weird moment. Because that was written a while ago, right?
Yeah. Holy shit. That was, better part of 10 years ago?
Okay. Well, it's
or somewhere around there.
Very philosophical, but it illustrates something to me in the mind of an artist. And as I get older, I lament to myself of trying to be more present to people when I'm with people. It's a struggle sometimes, thinking about the past, thinking about what's coming up. But you kind of lay it out, particularly in the line, don't dwell on the then, embrace now. And that's what music is to me, particularly live music. It's in the present, it's here and it's gone, but it's now.
Nothing like it.
I find you guys have gifts, okay? There's the musical woodshedding, the instrument gift. There is the songwriting gift. There is the embracing what you do and putting it on the line and performing and entertaining us and speaking for the regular Joes and Marys out there who once in a while go, hey, wow, you really touched me in what you said. So I just kind of found, I wrote that down because I just found that fascinating what you had to say,
I thank you for doing that, and I'm very blown away at your reaction in the most appreciative way possible, because that was written now that I kind of remember, but that was written during not the greatest time of my life. It really wasn't. I was I was home after college, and where I lived. The best part about where I lived was my family and friends, but as far as any sort of musical career, it was just nothing in sight. And, many nights ended up with a bottle of whiskey and my guitar in my room. That's all it was. Day after day after day.
That could be a dangerous road for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've, and that's something that I am always so happy to share, because it's not happy to share, but I withhold none of that, because, I think that in those little moments of maybe I was writing that to myself, that quote, and to just remind myself that you keep at it and just don't give up. And I'm almost listening to you say that quote as if someone else wrote it, because it was almost a little bit of a different version of me, and B, so long ago that it actually strikes a different kind of chord with me. And I think that everybody can learn something from that. Not me tooting my own horn in terms of a philosopher, but the biggest struggle I have as a person is comparing myself to others, especially those I look up to. And I think that that's always been the biggest threat to my musicianship, my development as a person. And I think that the biggest piece of advice I could give anybody, which I'm sure I'm stealing from someone else, this is not original by any means.
Oh, we all borrow, right?
Yeah. I said, I'm sure I am. No, I am. But, you always just want to, whatever you do, whatever you strive to do, the only comparison that you should have is yourself. And I think that if you always work on bringing yourself a notch up, you're doing the best, you're doing your best work. And I think that's one of the most mentally healthy things you can do, because especially in this age of just, oh my God, the shit that I see on Instagram, we're lucky that anybody plays an instrument, because you see these individuals on and the screwed up thing is this is not the majority, but some of them, it's not even real. There's actually a degree, and I read something about that, but and I'm not going to get too into that, but I've caught a couple where I'm like, you're really taking advantage of people who think that you're blowing them away, and it's artificial, it's sped up, or there's some editing, but regardless, not to ramble, just focus on yourself.
What's interesting in that quote, and two things, I got to write more poetry, but on occasion I'll write poetry, right?
Oh, awesome.
A lot of times it's in the morning. I live on the South Shore, so we have the ability to see the winter sunrises on the South Shore. Absolutely phenomenal. And look me up on Facebook. You'll see some of the photos I took through a security camera, of all things, a pan tilt zoom security camera. So it's the business I'm in. Anyway, what's interesting, and I've thought about this in the past, even when it comes to scriptures that you've heard over and over, the same thing over and over again. The thing that's changed is you over time. Like you said, you wrote that 10 years ago, but now you have the gift of hearing it back to yourself and revisiting it, maybe when times are better now, and getting something from that. So that's the beauty of poetry and music, particularly something you create. You can go back and reflect and maybe remember a difficult time that it's okay to remember now, and now take a lesson from yourself, right?
Sure.
And bring it forward. But
yeah.
Hey, Derrek, I just want to say this. Thank you for spending so much time with me. A good friend, my friend Bob Murray, and I end many of my podcasts this way, says, you can account for what you have in the bank and what you own. You can never account for the time you have left on earth. And the fact that you've given me a couple hours here is a real blessing. And I look forward to seeing you out on the circuit and seeing what else you're going to come up with. And man, write a song about this. Come on, it's right here. Just write. I
got all the influence I need right here, man. That's it.
Yeah, come on. I know. If you want me to sing, I'll sing on your next song. But no.
Perfect.
Yeah, horrible.
I see those guitars behind you. Come on, man.
Yeah. All right, a little bit.
Hey, but truly, it's this was a total privilege. You don't have to thank me for anything. I was so happy to do this. I was so happy to be asked. And like I said, all we ever have to hear is one person say that they're interested in us on musical level. And it makes my whole week. This was, I was so looking forward to this.
Cool, man. All right,
yeah,
so you will come back then.
I would most definitely love to come back.
And we got to coerce Kyle to come in too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll have the both of you. We'll see how that works out.
I love it.
All right, everybody. Be well. We'll see you next time. Look up Derrek Adam. You're going to love his music. And I'm going to look back at this years from now and go, yeah, I knew him when. All right. Be well, everybody. Take care.
Steve, thanks, brother. Cheers.
Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate the time you spent with us. Please subscribe and comment and visit us at gigdestiny.com. Till next time, be generous with your joy, keep your spirits high, and let the music take you on a journey. Be well. Peace.